you ever drink mouthwash? All right, we're gonna cut right there. So.
All the time.
Yeah. Before.
Welcome to that's
It's the chapstick.
it's the chapstick. My mouth should be glowing in this review. To the After Movie Podcast. I stole Mason's chapstick. It's mine now. He's your host. That's Mason. We're all the guests. Price.
Oh,
Nathan.
yeah, I'm relegated to the guest.
Well,
we're all the guests.
He said
This
Mason
is
is the host, and we're all the guests.
Yeah.
Oh, God. I didn't come up with anything. Nathan, I hope you have some.
I knew that's how Dylan viewed us. He just finally said it out loud.
No, we're just in order. It's whoever's sitting all the way over here. So, now, of course, I'm your host. Everybody else is the guest. So, this is the After Movie Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about Nathan.
We are talking about the Cube, a 1997. I always like to say classic, just for no good reason.
I wouldn't.
But honestly, I this one I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do it.
I think you say classic just because you could say Canadian right before it too. Canadian classic.
Canadian.
You know, like
Is
you
this
get away
Canadian?
from it because, like, yeah, you know, it's Canadian, yeah.
Huh.
Oh, okay.
And it's alliteration.
That explains the acting.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, that man, the acting in this movie. I guess let's begin with kind of
what's this movie about?
what's happening in this film. So we are basically dealing with a group of people that almost all immediately stumble into each other in a singular room in this complex of multiple other rooms. It's a cube. They are 14 by 14 by 14 in size, and there is a door on every face of the cube, so there are 6 doors, and you could go in any of those directions, and there are ladders to climb up if you need to. And
They were fun.
this whole thing is about just this group of people trying to find their way out of the seemingly endless number of identical cubes, minus like some color differences and some, super deadly traps.
Yes.
But otherwise, they're all pretty much the same room over and over again. So it's almost like a bottle episode kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I'm sure the budget team was just like, brilliant.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like, this is great. We make one set.
Yes. Change the
You
LEDs.
think they just exactly. They changed the background lights.
Well, all they did was just like it's like they had the hue lights before hue lights.
Right,
Where they
exactly.
just like make this one red.
Yeah.
Nice.
Did they meet another group at some point? I thought they ran into another group for like a second.
No.
Well, I thought was the mentally challenged guy by himself?
He
Yeah.
eventually
Okay.
stumbled down.
Yeah, he drops in from a top one.
Okay.
Yeah,
'cause
they
thought
go to
people
open
were
a
stuck.
door and then
He's just
he
sitting
just
on it.
falls.
Which it
straight
is,
through.
it is strange that he was in a separate room, but it's just kind of part of
Well,
the...
I mean, really, they all were in separate rooms, but they're all in adjacent rooms
right next
to
in
each
the
other.
beginning. So the other thing going on with this movie is it's very much just about the people and
You get tossed
their
right in.
their breakdown, and also just the slow revelation of like, oh, why is everybody here? Everybody's got a purpose. You're all trying to work together to get out of here, and like everybody's in some way useful for this task is what they're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But then also over time they start to realize like, oh, this guy actually was part of the creation of this place that we're in now. And boy, do they like to harp on this part. It was all compartmentalized so that nobody knew anything about the whole thing overall, and everybody's just mindlessly making widgets in Colorado that would then be a part of this underground secret
Something in Tucson.
prison in
Yeah.
Tucson, and
No.
So the left
It's the
hand doesn't know
government,
what the right
man.
is doing.
Yeah.
oh my gosh,
Can we agree that she was the most annoying character?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
She deserved to be dropped.
She's the
Good.
worst.
Yeah.
Yeah. the
What was
female
her
doctor.
name? Yeah,
Holloway.
Holloway, yeah. I was like, it wasn't Levin,
Yeah.
it wasn't Worth, it wasn't Quentin. I remember why this movie has names that I remember more. They say their names a lot though.
No,
They
so-
do.
This movie does me a favor of saying names too much, but I actually do remember them because of it. Except for Holloway, that bitch had to go. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's kind of the basics of it. They're working on finding their way out using math, and they also
That's my favorite
have
part.
just the mentally challenged Rain Man that eventually they realize like, oh, he's able to figure out all
The powers,
the-
the
yeah.
prime
the
numbers.
The
the factors
Yeah.
I
of
thought they were the
big
powers.
numbers very rapidly.
powers would be if it was getting like square cubed and stuff.
I wouldn't survive.
Although that being cubed would have been no, I would have that's.
Oh yeah, like
that's beyond my
no way would I.
I never even think
no
that
way
prime.
would most people ever
No.
come to any kind of conclusion looking at those numbers. Maybe thinking coordinates and thinking like, all right, there's up, down, left. Like there's 3 dimensionalities to the layout of this world. You could definitely come to her first conclusion, which was that it was coordinates.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
You could maybe figure out a prime numbers thing, but man,
That's
I'm
They're so
I'm
tall.
even very
Yeah.
doubtful of that.
Big numbers, yeah.
Like they're big numbers, so to like break them down to their primes.
Yeah.
We don't need to get into the
Which
weeds
a
on that.
a lot of them seem to be placed there because they had almost like the perfect kind of group to get through the situation.
Right.
Which,
Like there's an almost intentional composition to say you can get out.
yeah, which I like because it almost seems like they were picked there for a reason to see if
Yeah.
they could get out.
Which
I like that.
the sequel Hypercube definitely actually does have that be a little bit of a thing where there were definitely people in there with a reason, and you find out towards the end that one person was in there to help the people that made it to begin with figure something out.
Yeah, so with this, in a lot of ways, there's a very clear line between this, like in Saw, like the Saw series, where, especially in the earlier Saws, before they start getting a little too wacky, is that the people were all picked and they have like an invisible relationship with one another for some way or another, right? And in this one, it's not really like that. It is more so that they all have something that they can bring to this table to sit there and help them get their way through. Although I'm still kind of wondering what the doctor's is in hindsight.
She was literally just there to tell you that like they only had 4 days.
I guess just to like maintain if injuries
and
or
to like try and be the person to help the
she was kind of like a caretaker for like the mentally handicapped person.
Also, they never really explained why, but she knew more about the cop character she knew more about his family, Quentin.
Yeah, Quentin.
She knew stuff about like him being divorced and that sort of thing that there's no way she should have known, which is why he didn't trust her and
kind of
letting her go.
I thought she was just inferring that because they were both, because he was like, I got your number, like I know exactly the kind of person you are, like you live by yourself,
maybe
anything like that. And then she's like, well, I know you, and then he's like, you do know me, bye bye.
It's a bit strange they peg her to be like a psychologist in a way, more so than like a medical doctor, because she's like caretaking with like somebody with.
She's also a conspiracy theorist.
Low functioning conspiracy theorist. Yeah.
So wildly conspiratorial.
And I don't think psychologists are like that deep into the deep end.
Of all educations, it's all possible. Doctors, psychologists.
That, like
conspiracy
theories know no boundaries.
They do not. Yes, but. No, it's weird because she's presented as a medical doctor, but like all of her like how she's presented is like this caretaker person, which is like not at all what like MDs do. Like, cool, 5 minutes, cancer, no cancer, good, get out of my office. Like, so I don't think she has.
She wasn't a nurse; she was a doctor.
Right.
She's not. Yeah, I mean they're not there for that typically.
But I want to say this movie understands it doesn't want to take itself too seriously, because there's one point where I like audibly laughed, and it's when Quentin, the cop, is talking to the girl, and he's like, well, what's your thing? And she's like, I'm nothing, I'm just a student. And then he looks at numbers, he's like, you're a student, you do math, come over here. And then from here, she's crunching fucking prime numbers, and she's quantifying this.
She's so sassy about it.
Yeah.
Good Lord, she's sassy.
I can tell you, I've had a couple of years of, like, college-level math. None of that shit would come to mind for me whenever I thought. So, like, unless they wanted her to be, like, clearly, like, a math major of some sort or something like that and be upfront, they didn't cover that. She might be in culinary for all we know.
Well, I took it as she was definitely into the math world because
I think she geeks about it, but
she's definitely minoring, if not doing more.
But for Quentin to make the leap to say, you're a student, you do math, they'd be like, Quentin, why don't you do math? Huh? You're a cop.
Put a couple numbers together, buddy.
Man, Quentin was only there to destroy. Like he was
not from the beginning.
Price had a really good point last night.
You could imagine like he was the leader figure to begin with.
Okay,
that deteriorates so fast.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. I don't know what point I made actually.
Well, you were saying last night how like he was basically portrayed as like the main character in this movie, which I didn't necessarily completely agree with, but it does make a little bit more sense because you start with him.
Yeah.
And
no, you start with the guy in the cold open.
Yeah, that was something I was going to mention because we talked about you had asked if they had run into other people and it was just that core group, but you can easily forget that we did open up with another person.
Yeah,
and
which
that
you
guy
never see him.
was.
No.
You never see.
We never bump into his room with all the bits out.
Yeah, that's true. They
it could have been a different.
That room.
That
but
was
they
just
didn't have the budget to find that room.
No.
They definitely spent a decent
that
amount of money.
That would have been more answers they
keeping him
had
up.
to come up with if they found it. But
that's a good
also,
excuse.
like, if they went in that room, they would have died.
True.
So
they would see the bits.
Yeah, like they could have looked in there and be like, no, big no.
No. You think that like low-key happens in the montage? They open that? No.
Yeah,
that's dead.
Yeah.
You're gonna die in there.
But no, Price said basically, like, with Quentin being the main character, it's interesting how, like, you're kind of on board with him, and then he turns into the absolute villain, bad guy, don't want to associate with him anymore by the end of it, because of psychotics and, like, just, I don't know, him turning into a totally different person.
Yeah, he's just a hyper-aggressive dude, right? Like,
yeah, and if we talk about, like, the turning of characters and their mental states, this is a way too fast of a roller coaster of mental degradation.
Well, you have absolutely
like,
no
they
idea.
Go batshit immediately.
Well, you don't know how many days it is. It's just one of those like, we're gonna sleep, and then I guess we'll wake up whenever we wake up, and we don't know how much time is, which is okay.
Yeah, like,
but
you could maybe argue like people could very quickly get as crazy as these folks.
Maybe he's diabetic and his blood sugar's dropping. You know,
it just doesn't sell me on it. Like they don't feel like they justify how crazy they get.
Oh, especially like when we get evil Quentin, just how quickly that happens. Because like he's got her on the rope and she's like, "Oh, thank you," and then his eyes get all big and he's like, "I'm evil now."
It does feel like it's just like and flip the switch. And he's evil. Let her go.
And then he gets back in the room and is like, I'm gonna kill everybody.
I dropped her.
And his immediate like hatred towards Worth.
Yeah.
Like from the very beginning of the movie, he's not the biggest fan of him, but he hates him like more and more with every single scene that happens.
The beating with the boot. I thought he was gonna kill him.
I thought he was dead.
Yeah, I thought he was dead.
That's what it seemed like. Like for as hard as he was swinging with that boot, I think he should have looked way worse.
With the black eye. That was all it had, basically.
This guy cops, though. I mean, you could tell. Like,
he does.
He's hitting him here.
Yeah.
And here.
Yeah,
well, even
you ain't gonna prove it.
Swing too is like the way that final swing goes down and then his like kind of exhaustion with it. That was in every way like that was he died.
Yeah, he's dead. Only to find out Worth was in fact not dead.
Well, one thing that like I hated about this movie, and I didn't dislike a whole lot, but one thing that I absolutely wish that they could have done so much differently was that very, very like cheesy like he didn't die at the end. He actually came back while they were all three were about to get out. No, Quentin somehow survived.
Yeah.
And there were so many ways that they could have not made it without him having to come back. I think that hurt this movie plenty. They could have had some more fatigue from the very beginning, like if Worth was like coughing at the very beginning, and he was obviously in bad shape, and like with every scene that went by, he was like looking more like deathly.
Yeah.
Then he could have just died in that last room.
Yeah, I mean they had him heading in that direction, but he wasn't there enough.
Yeah,
like,
he was still going to be able to climb out of there.
Yeah.
And instead, they chose to go with Quentin, which I would have went down there and double tapped him, I think. You know what I mean? It's just...
Yeah, definitely.
But they did get away from him, which that was the silliest part, was like somehow he was able to MacGyver
all
the way to the
left.
left.
That's a really crazy thing. Like, how did he manage to get back to them?
6 more rooms at least.
But
because at a certain point, he's guessing.
He didn't have a boot either.
Right.
He didn't have a boot. He was guessing. Also, I mean, the cube... One thing about the cube is that it repositions things. Like, the big thing that they figure out, one of the big reveals is the very first room that they were in is the room they should have stayed in. Because that room links as a bridge to the outside world.
Yeah.
every so many permutations of the movements of the cube.
It's the classic get lost strategy. Get lost, you stay where you are. That's where, you know what?
Yeah. Someone will come get you.
Well, that first guy was a ranger, and he was going to tell him that, but he went exploring,
Oops.
and he got
Well,
netted.
So, and that's another thing about the very end. Like, I'm okay with, the mentally challenged guy making it out. That's great. But I do think it would have been a stronger ending if, like, maybe 2 people had made it out.
Yeah, I think him and the girl make it out, and, like, him and Worth, that's like...
Or him and Worth.
The
or,
girl, the girl
a
definitely deserved to make it that far. Like, at a certain point, it's a little frustrating.
Well, another little note, and I don't know if you can find this footage, but apparently
Tell me there's an alternate ending.
There's an alternate ending in a way in that it continued to let you see what was outside the cube.
Oh.
But that
I've
was
seen
the
it.
very first thing that got cut.
Yeah,
what does that look like?
If I'm not mistaken, the mentally challenged guy walks out, and it's like a shore. Like, it's like he's like walking out to like a beach or something, and he's like stumbling, doing that thing with his fingers.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hardly even a clip. We'll look at it in a little while.
So it's only like a few seconds.
I think it's like 40 seconds.
Okay.
Maybe.
What if you walk... So, alright, here's my headcanon. He starts walking out, and then if you've ever seen the Scary Movie, like they have, Officer Dummy or whatever like that.
Yeah.
And he's like portrayed as like a low functioning individual. And he's at the end he starts peeling stuff off, and he's just like the smooth stud. And I want to see that for that character.
Yeah. I hadn't seen this film before. I'd actually seen Hypercube, and most of the time with his character, I was expecting that he actually was putting on an act, and that he was
the creator or something.
Like much more than what he was.
I was waiting for that for
as.
any of those characters, but then the
well, and they had that with so many of them where they're like kind of dropping like, oh yeah, I'm nothing important. I only actually designed part of
I'm only an architect that works primarily in cubular structures.
I designed the exterior of this huge facility. Like, that's a big deal.
That's
you just
incredibly important work, you son of a bitch. I'm gonna beat you with this boot.
Like, Quentin had a reason to not like it.
Yeah, that's fair.
To be fair.
Yeah, but
because he was kind of a dick about that. Like, that's a thing that you probably open with pretty quick.
I think if you don't like those guys, it's one thing, but it's another thing to be like, I hate you if I meet you in the real world. We are trapped in a cube together, and I feel like I need you alive based on the fact that you may know anything that could get us out of here. Like,
yeah, like you could have sold this movie more on their actions if you had sold more on the idea of like the inability to figure out what time it is, the lack of sleep, the lack of food, like all those things can absolutely make somebody do very rash, nonsensical things. Especially the lack of food and water. That's huge, and that's actually a thing that they didn't. And Hypercube definitly does touch on that.
On the survival aspects of it.
Yeah.
I think
with one character in particular.
It would be really interesting to sit there and just have like an extra note, like something like a little tiny sign on there. And I know it breaks all like the rules because you want to be totally clueless in here. But even just to have something that like puts the stakes on there being characters staying alive other than the traps, being like, all right, so you are on limited oxygen in this cube. The more people that are here, the less time you have to sit there and get out of the cube. Like, even if there's just something like that, that gives me an instant pretense where people want to just be like, fuck, maybe I need to start killing people. Maybe I need to...
This is for the good of the group.
Yeah. I'm like,
stab.
Sorry, Worth.
I mean, and they almost... I mean, they could have gone the route of somebody deciding to eat somebody.
Yeah, easily could have gone
this.
I would love for that girl to just start the movie raw.
Y'all are
like
just,
right there.
Y'all are just writing fan fiction at this point. What about
This
the actual
movie does
this movie, all right. So
what about the actual movie?
So the movie's acting is bad. Let's just get that out of the way.
What I didn't like about it, you said that the rooms were basically all the same, but minus the color. The colors were brilliant.
I think the
loved the colors of these rooms because they were dark. They were like, they were really bright. Like the white one was gorgeous. The red one I would not want to touch. That guy was right. No red rooms for me.
Red room's bad, but I'm like,
but the details on the wall that the traps came out of were like kind of cool. They look like alien, sort of like I don't know,
like
symbols and stuff.
All the spikes
spears and stuff.
Yeah, where it was like very thin telescoping needles. Yeah,
I loved the rooms, and I loved how like they rotated around. It was very cheesy how they were able to come to the conclusion that like it's ever changing, because like they felt the shaking the whole movie.
Yeah,
but
they were never in one that
actually
was moving. And then the other thing is, you don't, as the audience, you don't get to see all the time that they're in this place.
No.
You're skipping through and kind of catching highlights. You would imagine at some point one of them probably would have opened a door and seen that they were like in one of those
shifting.
chutes or
Yeah.
seen something moving, but apparently that never really happens until it's convenient for the plot.
Until the bad guy gets split in half at the very end, right?
Yeah.
I guess there's something subjective to sit there and say that the plot that they don't say, but it almost wants to imply, is that, okay, well, this cube is smart enough now where maybe it's only moving when they get like within a certain amount of cubes to a wall, and then like the sensors pick up on it. Because they do kind of they build this cube to be like this all-knowing like killing machine, but with a chance of hope. But they never talk, like, they never give us the answer of, like, who put us here? Why are we here? Other than the fact that we all possibly have enough tools amongst us to get out of the cube. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, so all of the, like, Big Brother answers, like, they don't answer, which I don't know if I like that as a strength or weakness or not.
Yeah, they really never tell you why this happened.
No, the guy
Cube
gets
Zero.
out.
Cube Zero
Cube
does?
Zero do that? Oh,
Man.
Jesus. I have to go 3 movies into
I've
this?
got
Possibly a prequel?
So I will tell you, I did watch Hypercube immediately after watching Cube, and Hypercube I liked better. If Cube Zero actually explains what's going on even more, I will watch it. I'm not saying that these are great films necessarily, but my interest is piqued. You know?
Yeah, the world interest is there. Yeah, I think that's a credit where credit's due.
I don't want to say anything about the movie.
This,
You just watch it.
I mean,
yeah. So for the record, is Cube Zero the 3rd movie in the franchise, but also a prequel by my guess? Or
It's not really a prequel. It's like an understanding that this has been going on for a while, and this you don't know what number group that was in this thing.
Right.
Is it good or bad?
I liked it as much as this movie.
Okay.
Okay.
Hypercube, I talked to Nathan off camera. I didn't like Hypercube very much because it's very like digitized and like it tries. This movie was in 1997, acting like it was kind of not necessarily ahead of its time, but just acting like what it had at the time.
It felt very a part of its time.
And the CGI was pretty rough, but Hypercube reminds me of something that's trying to just
when it's like an
hit
80s
for the
movie
fences
trying to
and like and it's wild because like there's not like robotics, but like I don't know, like holograms and random shit that happens, right? Like that's all I can really remember.
It's
from
the
it.
Jason X of the Cube franchise, then.
Yeah, it gets wild because I mean it is about a hypercube.
Yeah.
So it's...
I don't even know what that's supposed to mean.
We weren't even ready for the regular
right. The regular cube was doing just fine, and you tell me they had to make it harder.
Have you ever seen like the drawings of what a 4-dimensional object would look like, where it's just like a?
But they did
it's
a
like
hypercube.
Imagine a cube that just is infinitely more cubes inside of it, just like kind of tessellating inwards.
It's like when you put 2 mirrors back against each other, right? Like that, like inwards reflection where it's just infinite possible, or like.
Sure, maybe kind of.
Like, if you like turn it slightly,
it's hard to articulate because it's not something that.
Well, it's 4-dimensional. We're not supposed to articulate it.
We can't grok it, and we can't draw it because you can't draw something 4-dimensional on
a 3-dimensional plane
or 3 dimensions. So it's just like the best like hypothetical.
Sure.
And yeah, it's a very strange film. I do ultimately kind of like it better though. Like I get that the CG wasn't that good, but that's not really what we're here for.
Yeah.
Also
90s.
about this Cube movie, the montages are absolutely terrible. And the music used in this movie, primarily the montages, are absolutely terrible. I hated it.
I loved that.
I was like, what is that noise? And then it happened again. I was
If
like,
you were to make that noise 2 years ago to me, I'd be like, oh my god, you watched it! Like, it still sticks with you, just like that.
I hated it. They used it so much.
I've definitely realized I don't pay attention that much to the music in a film.
They only did it like twice.
Yeah.
Like
it was enough where I noticed it on the second time though. Where I was like, they did this earlier.
Very much just
because you're looking at the picture and
that.
stuff. Like Mason mentioned the colors. Like I don't really remember the colors.
All those colors
I'll say for what clearly is a low budget '97 film.
Did what it
did fine to not. It did
fine
fine to look like a
visually.
90s movie, but not look like a bad aged movie. Like in regards to like set props and all that stuff. Like
the acting didn't age well.
I got a
acting's
question.
Bad. Like it's bad in '97 price.
What
like,
was Holloway's like objective, swinging, and like just going out of that place. What the fuck was that?
Like what?
I think
what
they were
did
just trying to see.
I think they were
where's
just
she
trying to see
going?
if she could like somehow grab
right.
the other end or something.
It looked like a blank slate wall.
No,
like,
I know. It looked like there was nothing.
You know,
over
if
there.
we did the math on it, we know that it's a 14-foot
14.
gap.
It's at least 14
so,
foot over there.
Yeah, we could figure out like how many pairs of pants did they have?
Right.
Like, was this even really possible?
Was this feasible to begin with? Why didn't they do that math?
Yeah.
But they're crunching prime numbers all the way through the
Yeah.
wazoo.
But we're gonna throw the doctor out the window.
Yeah, like we're gonna throw the
Freaking
Linus doctor.
Oh,
Because
she's light, but she's also the doctor.
And she's also hated by at least 2 people in this group.
I like that she even admits I'm probably the second lightest. The girl is the lightest. So I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
Well, it was her turn.
Yeah. plus
Right,
it's my
because
turn.
it was my
Yeah.
turn, right, yeah. Which
Also, my only other, well, not only other issue, but like whenever they decided to go through that spear room that was just gonna like poke you to death.
Oh.
Like, why did they choose to do that? That was
Yeah,
just
they went
like,
about it.
because it would take too long to go around.
right.
because they haven't already been going around.
Also, there's no fucking way I believe every single one of them had
Nope.
the arm strength to monkey bar it all the way
I
across.
don't know. I
mean,
believe
it's-
that.
Yeah.
I-
So think about it this way: it's 7 feet of monkey bar.
Yeah,
That's
which
not
is
that far.
two
It's not.
strides.
but
Well,
yeah.
maybe 3.
Well, it's at least 3, maybe 4
Yeah.
strides.
listen, I don't know.
The sound, though.
The sound.
The sound.
Yeah, like
That would've been
that
a
would
thing.
be a really hard
There's
thing
no
to
way.
do. To me,
Yeah, there's no
Yeah.
way.
yeah,
Like-
if you talk that particular situation, to me,
Mm.
the thing is, if I were any of them, I would insist on the other ones closing the door
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
before
Oh,
I
yeah.
go to make
You
any
can't help
movement in
anyway.
that room.
Like, yeah.
Because
so-
if they're all sitting there like looking through the porthole, just watching you,
Mouth
it's like,
breathing.
get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Shut the
Let
fuck
me do my own
Close
work.
the
It's
door.
like, especially with the guy like that you
Yes.
know could just
Yeah.
chirp up with
Send
a
him
noise
3
out of
rooms
nowhere.
down.
Mm.
Yeah, it's like you get him the hell away from that door.
Right.
He does not need to be anywhere near
He
this
shouldn't
situation.
be with us to begin with, but my God, get him out of here
Yeah,
somewhere.
no, there's no way you don't go. First of all, I don't believe every one of them have the arm strength to do it. But even more than that, I don't think that any one of them doesn't grunt or
Yeah.
like
Or
something.
Yeah.
Something doesn't happen where it's just like, oh, spikes. Like,
Oops.
I'm actually kind of offended that nobody died in that one. I won't lie. Like, it had been long
yeah,
enough.
they died in so many places, but that time,
Yeah.
everybody gets through just fine.
This cube did not take enough victims.
It didn't.
Not
I
not
agree.
naturally.
The
it didn't.
people kill-
not,
yeah.
not on its own.
Yes.
They
It took
were killing
one.
each other.
Even-
Which, speaking of that, the weapon that he used to
It's
kill
one
the
of the
girl-
handles from the
Oh
things.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. I
Yeah.
wasn't sure what that was.
Yeah, it was one of the.
But I
He's a
guess they
macho
could have
man. I guess
taken
he
those.
yanks
But
off.
how the fuck he ripped that off one of the doors?
He's,
Sorry.
he's a macho
Maybe
dude.
they didn't. Maybe they just like screw on and off, and nobody bothered to unscrew
Maybe.
one.
It is the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, we don't know how Quentin got it. We just know that Quentin is a bad actor. Or, okay, maybe he's not a bad actor, but he did a bad acting in this movie.
Yeah.
In fact, most of them did bad acting in this
I
movie.
liked Worth's acting.
Worth. Here's the thing about Worth. Like,
Yeah, he was fine.
Worth-
I mean, he just was so quiet though.
Yeah.
Right.
He was just like this tired, dejected,
He was the guy
already
in Fight Club.
defeated.
He was Edward Norton in
he
Fight
was
Club.
no,
Like towards the beginning.
me.
Or in an Office Space. Who was the main guy in Office
yeah,
Space?
I'd give you an Office Space.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was just quiet. Anyways,
Anyways, we've been at this for a minute.
Trivia?
Yeah.
Trivia. What,
you have any
what
special things?
fun
Uh,
facts do we have about this
Sure,
movie?
I've been trying to figure out where I could toss this in, but we've kind of just kept going.
Well, there's 3
Uh,
of them.
You know,
Yeah.
this movie was filmed in just 20 days.
Hmm.
It's
That's actually kind of
That's
impressive.
pretty,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a quick
Yeah.
one.
A lot of that was
Now,
probably CGI.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I was gonna say surely the CGI took longer than 20
Yeah.
I think
for
we-
sure.
I think we could recreate this movie in a day.
Yeah, it'd be close. Yeah.
I mean, the sets
For
are going to be a
sure.
little hard and elaborate, but I think us acting it, I think we could act it through in a day.
May.
Yeah.
Price up in Cincinnati.
I'm up for it.
Yeah.
Alright, cool.
Bachelor party. That's-
No amusement park.
nope.
So, also, it was just one cube, as anybody would expect. It was just one cube,
Yeah.
and
Strange because they had shots of like through the door.
well,
Mhm.
they were able to move the panels around, so
Okay.
they
Oh,
probably
okay.
like if you're filming in this direction, you can take
the ones from
back
behind
side
the
of
camera.
cube and
Yeah,
Right.
move it, yeah. The majority of the film was shot on a handheld camera. That's.
I believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about being
Maybe not
innovative
a
for your
tripod,
time, though.
though.
This is the
Tripod?
iPhone director.
I don't know if they're using. Well, I mean, it wasn't shaky cam.
It wasn't
shaky.
shaky.
So
That feels real low budget then.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, listen. Yeah, you wanted to make a movie. All right, that's what you got to do sometimes. Nobody expected Cube to be the hit that it was in '97.
I have a copy of this movie physically.
Like VHS.
I swear to God, almost.
do?
I believe it. I believe it.
No, it's DVD.
Oh, DVD.
Yeah,
That surprises me more.
I know, right?
DVD said
I
'97.
bought it back in like 2006.
Do you think this is a reprint?
Oh, I meant to tell you guys, there's a Japanese version of this movie coming out like this year,
Oh.
or it just came out.
Oh,
it said
well,
2021. I'm gonna
How
watch it.
timely of
I
us.
know,
Right.
I know. I'm gonna watch it.
We're gonna put international films on this list, and Price is gonna pick Cuba or whatever the fuck it's called.
Cuba.
Yeah,
I guess
Cuba.
some other little bits of interest is the budget was 365,000
Canadian dollars.
Canadian, so that's like 10 American dollars at that
Yeah,
time.
so it was
Something
a
like that.
shoestring budget. I mean,
Yeah.
they probably just paid the actors and then
I don't think the
had
actors
10
got
cents
paid.
to make the set.
I don't think that they're actual actors.
No.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
I think it's 100% that set. I did see a trivia fact that
Oof, its worldwide gross is pretty bad.
I
Oh,
hope
So
no.
it made 500,000 in the U.S. and Canadian market,
Mhm.
and worldwide it made 565,000.
that's
Oh.
So
a million.
it barely made anything at all.
all for this
Right.
continent.
Yeah.
Like it at least didn't lose money, I guess.
Yeah.
No, it still remains profitable, I suppose. So that's something to consider. And
They're
then
getting royalties.
in '97, this isn't like you don't need to be a Marvel film making $1 billion every year. Like these guys, they probably
Yeah, I mean,
distributors have to have a realistic expectation about this.
And
movie.
it branched off into 2 other films.
Right.
So there's
Yeah.
enough intrigue.
How much does the series made? That's the
No,
barometer
I
I
don't know.
think about. Yeah. But
I can tell you it gets worse and worse as far as the grossing of it.
I think this was the movie that they put out there to sit there and say this is why we in Canada need healthcare for all. They said because
Hypercube made 3.5 mil.
triple.
Don't know what the budget was. though.
Actually, that's
Probably much more.
yeah, 350%
Yeah,
increase.
it had to have been because there was a lot more
There's-
going on. in
Yeah,
that
that's
one.
much CG stuff that I haven't seen, but
Well, they weren't only in the cube either.
Yeah,
Wait.
that's true. They did have some
Mhm.
outside the
Outside
cube
scenes.
scenes.
Anyway, should we move on to the question? Do you have any?
the cube question is that technically a third?
Yeah, sure. I've got a cube question.
Okay.
Oh boy.
All right.
Better than
We're
the
all in the
triangle
cube.
question.
Mhm.
What's everybody's job? Like, what do you
I
bring
was gonna
to the
ask
table in
which
the cube?
characters were we in that cube.
Oh no.
I'm,
Probably that's-
I'm Quentin.
Oh,
Yeah.
God. All right.
I claim him.
You're the. All right. Well, if he's quitting,
I'm bad at math.
yeah, I'm okay, I guess. I mean, I'm pretty. Yeah, I'll be 11.
I'll be the cynic. Honestly, I'll be Worth. That's fine.
Yeah.
Nathan, you're definitely the prison escapee guy at the beginning.
You're Ren?
Yeah. Oh no, the climber monkey.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Suck on
alright.
it.
Yeah, your confidence
You know,
was your
I
undoing,
hate
though.
that I had to die so early, but man, I had a good run. I was a pretty clever guy.
Yeah.
I
was
just
so
didn't know math
ridiculous.
that good.
Also, if this man's gone into, which by the way, you know that line's coming immediately when they're like, he's gonna have 4, like
Yeah.
or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been 2 to 3, but
He said 6, and then he said
7. Yeah, you knew that line immediately was coming. But how do you evade all of that and then get caught by the people that put you in the cube?
Yeah. Like,
That
That's
well, I mean,
and then you're the first to go.
I think if the people that put people in cubes wants to put you in a cube,
You're going into a
in
cube.
the
Yeah, you're going in the cube.
Well,
yeah.
one of them said, I think it was Holly, was like, I was making a sandwich and then, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, do you think
It's
it's
like, I was
there
just
and you
asleep in my bed. and
Yeah.
Well,
Here I am.
Well, that's how Saw gets you.
that's true. Oh yeah.
Saw always
you
gets
do.
you in like the pig mask and like.
Yeah, you're
and
just
they,
doing
like,
your regular
flash.
thing. Yeah, the
They
flash.
like flash with a camera or something, and then you get syringed.
So
Anyway.
all I know is I ain't letting Price fucking do anything holding me.
Mm-mm.
Drop me
Shit.
like a newborn baby.
I'll
this
give you
man.
those eyes.
Yeah, you will.
Actually, he like smiles at her.
Yeah, it's the empty.
Mhm.
Yeah. That guy's
Crazy
awful.
eyes.
Dylan, I think there's one more thing before we give our scores.
Yeah, I'm feeling
That
this.
was lovely.
I'm feeling this. We're gonna do Fat Thin Perfectly Fit for today's segment.
Yep.
Something that we do almost every time because it's back. It's the best segment. And I'm
Should we let Bryce-
I'm
It's
allowed
been
to-
back for like a year.
I know I love it.
Yeah.
And Price, why don't you start us off?
It's thin. I kind of wanted a bit more on either why they're there or how they got there. At least I would like one of those two questions answered. I think they needed a little bit more there. That's about it. I mean, it's thin, but not in a particularly bad way.
Yeah, I agree. This movie is thin, which again is part of why I immediately rolled into watching Hypercube, and I will most likely be watching Cube Zero because I want to know more. It is interesting.
0 calories.
You know, bad acting and everything else aside, it's a neat concept, and it does just. It leaves you with so many questions. Like, you didn't learn anything about what was going on. And Hypercube doesn't really help you a whole lot either. So
I've watched 2 movies and I have more questions.
They missed an opportunity because, like Hypercube, or Cube 2 Hypercube, has, like, the little the 2 power. They could have said Cubed.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Cube would have
3.
been... Would that have been 2 or 3?
It's a 3.
Yeah, 3. The third
3
power,
is
right?
the
would
third
be,
power.
Yeah,
It's
third
cubed.
power. Yeah,
Yeah.
cubed.
But they didn't.
Because
They
it's
said Cube
squared
0.
with 2.
Son of a bitch.
Drop the ball, Cube series.
Oh, well.
yeah.
97 directors. Why are you not listening to our franchise talk about your movie 25 years later?
Yeah.
One moment.
Uh-oh.
She's
Price
back.
gonna
For
stop.
dog treats.
We're about to get
You can
cubed.
narrow down these choices by
Echo.
drawing the
Echo, stop.
For example,
Echo!
Echo.
filter by
Stop. Stop.
What are you doing?
What
She's
dog
trying
treat?
to get us dog treats.
What?
Theo.
You guys were good boys.
Ugh.
Yeah, this movie is thin to fit. Like, it's skinny. It's skinny. That's the first time I think I've actually given this rating. It's fit in that its runtime is good, and it's the only difference is I trade out some of the montage for, like, answering some of these questions, right? But I think hour and a half, I was like, thank God. If I pulled this movie up and it was 2, I'd been like, I can
Like
already
you,
tell.
Cube.
I can already fucking tell. This isn't gonna deserve it.
Yeah, I guess.
With the time it gives us, it could easily have traded out a couple scenes and put the questions or answered some of the stuff it could have. So
Yeah.
I think it's fit in its runtime, but it's skinny on the content But to be fair, that's part of its allure is that it leaves some of those questions unanswered, and that's so I don't know, but it's skinny to me. But
I'll say it's fit. I think the only problem with that is, like, yeah, there's a lot of answers that weren't given to you, but yeah, you can roll into the next movie, you can roll into the next, but by that point you're spending 6 hours, roughly, you know.
Yeah, in the franchise
trying to
trying to
figure
answer.
out, like, what the fuck is up with this thing, which, I don't know, it's a good movie. It's nothing that you would want to sit there and, like, I don't know, really pick apart. On this watch, you know, I have a lot of different notes I'll talk about in my score, but, like, I had to go at it with a little bit of a different eye, but yeah, I think it was pretty fit for the idea. The one thing I will say, all of the monologue, especially by, like, the doctor woman and Quentin, it was getting so tiring because, like, she was already big in her theories. Oh, it's the man. I've worked in my line of business long enough. You know, you don't get it. Blah, blah, you know, you got that enough. But they just kept going on and on and on. So if I was to say that it was fat by any means, I would take her down a couple notches.
Yeah, I think they waste your time with that stuff.
Yeah, it was
and they also make you feel like they're bad actors because they left that in there.
Yeah.
Like, that's not good acting, that's not good storytelling, it's
not
wasting
good writing either.
Yeah, it's
necessarily.
wasting time on screen that could have been
used
put to
doing
better use.
Wasting my time.
Wasting my time. Scores. Price, lead us up.
I'm down for it. I like this movie quite a bit. I haven't said too much this review. I don't really know what needs to be said. I like this movie. It's got a lot of bad 90s trappings in it. Like I said, the acting
Did you mean trappings?
The acting is terrible all around. The music's not good. The sound design's pretty cool. Like the traps and stuff that they have, like the noises and stuff they make. That's pretty cool. But like you all said, the Cube definitely should have killed more of these people. I think out of the core group, the Cube got one of them.
It did.
And then a half of the other.
Yeah.
Not even meaning to. It was just doing its job.
Yeah.
Got him.
So I really think that I wish the Cube would have got more kills to kind of build up its kill
KO
count.
KD ratio.
Yeah, its KD was bad.
But I liked it. The concept is super interesting. I really like seeing these kind of movies that I never would have thought like I could have even come up with. Like so many of these movies now that come out are unoriginal or sequels, stuff like that, stuff you've heard a million times before. This isn't one of them. But the reason I'm not going to give it any higher is because I don't really want to rewatch it. I feel like now that I've watched it, I've seen it, I'm never going to watch it again, even though I enjoyed my time with it. So I was going to give it a 7 because I did really enjoy it, but those other reasons that are going to bring it down are going to bring it to a 6.5 for me. Because it doesn't have that rewatchability and it's got some bad stuff to it. But all in all, I really enjoyed my time with it. I was surprised how much I enjoyed it.
So you thought it was unique enough?
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
cool. Yeah.
The concept carried it really far.
Yep. I'll hop over Nathan because we always like having the person pick last on this one. And Strange Turn of Events. I'm actually with Price on this one. This is a 6.5. Stars align sometimes on our scales. It makes sense.
Your 6.5 is very different from mine.
Really? It seems like this is because it seems like our 6.5s are exactly the same.
6.5 for you is like a 4 for me.
No, 6.5. So 6.5 into the 6 category. You start to get into like objectively bad movies, right? Like you're like, this is like 97. The acting's bad. This is bad, but is it entertaining? Yeah. Is the concept kind of cool? A little bit. Rain of Fire, objectively, is a pure 6.5 movie, but it just gets bumped to 7 for how fucking fun it is, right? And they actually had real actors, so this is running at 6.5. I lean towards a 6 for a little bit, just because the acting's kind of rough and what makes a movie, like the acting, the sets, the stuff like that, like it's 50-50 at best with it. Like the sets are fine, the graphics are doing well, the acting's bad, the dialogue's bad, the story is pretty interesting. And kind of a lot of points that Price mentions, it's original enough, and the concept, it leaves me with questions that I don't mind not getting answered, but I do want answered. Like, I am interested in wanting to know it, but I like the mystique and allure that it leaves by not answering the questions in the movie.
And they didn't know they were going to continue on.
Right, they had, I doubt that, like, I'm sure in theory they're like, I'd love to make sequels on this one, but to know that.
Especially after how much it grossed,
right.
It's really surprising that it did get any further than, it doubled its money, which, you could say is good, but I think in the world of Hollywood, there's nothing to be impressed with.
Yeah, but in its time period, if you think this is like a little indie flick or something like that objectively, then that's not so bad in its ratios. And back in the 90s, you were just throwing shit against the wall. Like, this wasn't like the comic book era of feeling like everything feels like it's rehashed. Yeah. Sure, plenty of remakes got made in 97 first, or in the 90s period, but they had fucking movies about John Travolta and Nick Cage swapping faces. So why wouldn't this movie fly at that time and thing? So yeah, I think it's 6.5. Like, I had enough fun with it that for as bad of a movie it is, it's not going to go any higher, but it's just interesting enough to be like, yeah, I would go out of my way to, I think, even recommend it and be like, yeah, if you're Nathan, I would tell. This is a movie that I would watch and be like, Nathan, you would enjoy this movie.
Because it's old.
It's old and it's weird.
It's old, it's weird.
But it's just unique enough.
It's against the government.
And it's anti-establishment, so he's already there. We say no less than that. We actually say anti-establishment movie, and he's like, I'll try it.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, Mason.
For the exact same reasons of like you and Price, I can't say anything different. I mean, it's a little gritty. It's a little hard to stomach as far as like not even like the gory scenes, just the dialogue. Like it just doesn't make you feel all that great. It doesn't make you feel like it's genuine. But
it doesn't feel like it's genuine. What's your favorite kind of movie, Mason?
Horror.
Teen drama.
Oh,
there's
the corkscrew of the tree reminded me
I
of
thought you asked me my favorite
days.
genre, and it's horror.
Oh my
God!
God!
Teen drama is right behind it.
The dialogue,
damn close.
Damn close.
It's real close.
If they make
dialogue,
which is what It Follows was so right there for you.
Follows.
Like it hits all the bases.
Dialogue doesn't feel.
But the thing is, while you guys give it a 6.5, I'm gonna give it a 7.5. I think that it could go to an 8 if I got just the ending was a little different.
Hypercube, so I believe it.
Yeah. Well, if the ending was different, if there wasn't so much dialogue, if there was more cube killings, if there was more just to it, period. There's a lot of things that they could have helped. But I have seen this movie, and I think that
he owns this movie in physical media.
It's fun. Like, it is a fun movie, and you don't expect a whole lot out of it if you ever wanted to rewatch it anyway. The other day, I started watching it, and honestly, I was just kind of like, I got bored with it early on, and I was like, I could legit just turn this off. And I remembered every death. I remembered exactly what their positions were. I remember, like, who was who, and I remembered exactly who got out. But I did watch it yesterday again. I'm glad that I did. But it's just one of those, you'll remember it
Kelly actually got mad at me because I watched this without her. She was that
Really?
interested. She was
Oh,
she was
wow.
wanting to see it. So
You know
props to you, Nathan.
You know what I think's funny? I think a 7 is right on the perfect curve on would watch sequels. Like, if it hit a 7
Close,
up,
yeah.
I would be like, I'd probably check out a sequel. 6.5, I don't know if I want to watch it.
Yeah.
You can't look at me when we're talking about scores because you two are in your own
No, we're on the
world.
same page.
No,
me and
we're
you.
not.
We're not. We're not on this
not
one.
us. Not on this one. He's a point above me on this one.
Yeah.
I wouldn't watch the sequel.
Okay.
Nathan.
Well, so I guess time for my
Scenes
score.
of the sequel, maybe.
I'll
I,
give you the idea.
I feel like I'm actually the least satisfied.
Oh,
The
no!
one time!
I am so surprised by, like, I thought I was going into this thing getting ready to just be hammered on for having picked a stupid movie.
You've gotten pretty good reviews.
Not by me, buddy.
Yeah.
I guess I end up being the one that found this the least good for so many reasons.
It's a lot.
Like,
Yeah, that's a lot.
it was the, the doctor and her tirades against the government, I found very cringy
She had a
and
few of those.
distracting.
He's like, you internalized that with all
yeah.
your fury before you attacked the government.
The emotions that these actors are trying to portray were incredibly over the top and very, very poorly executed. And so much of what is effectively kind of a bottle episode of a movie does have to rely heavily on good acting, and we didn't get that. And we also, as you said, we didn't get cool, good deaths out of these people. You get 2 deaths at the start. You get
And they were
The
horrific.
coolest death is the
cool.
first one.
the
I like
first
the second one a lot.
It's still good.
The face.
Yeah,
that was
the
cool.
acid face.
Yeah, it was all right. That one like kind of repulsed me.
Oh yeah, me
No,
too.
it did. I will
Yeah.
say that I'm
Yeah.
like, the first one was cool. The second one, I was like, that's brutal. And for some reason, this acid face thing is just really
Well, and
disgusting.
I don't. Did you guys notice that there was literally steam coming up off of him,
Yeah.
and like the doctor was like had her face over his face, looking at him, and the
I'm like,
steam
no, the vapor
of
should
his
be getting
face
into your
melting was like rolling past her face.
Damn.
Woof.
Yeah.
Jurassic
The
Park is
smell.
one of your favorite movies, and that same kind of death happens. Well, it kind of is death.
It's like a little bit off
We're
screen.
talking about Nedry?
almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not like face.
He deserved it.
It's not like his skull getting melted in, though.
Oh.
I find it less so because
Well, so
death is going to be
I
by
will
dinosaur.
say that kind of thing also reminds me of something I saw when I was fairly young that scarred me against bread, particularly.
Well, that makes sense for you.
So there is
He's gluten free.
there's a guy that got this really rare mold from just loaf bread
Mhm.
that went in his nose because he opened a bag of loaf bread that had this mold growing on it, and it ate his entire face. And he's just has this. It's like somebody took an ice cream scoop and scooped the man's face out. He's still alive. It's freaky, and it looks kind of like this dude.
Oh my
Mm.
In
god.
his death. He wears like this weird mask thing.
Yeah,
that-
like a
to kinda,
prosthetic.
Does it
fill
look like the
in.
Phantom of the Opera like mask?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
It's creepy. It's really creepy.
I choose to believe that this is a fabricated story that people who can't eat gluten tell people who can to sit there and make
It's
them.
a horror story
Yeah,
trying to get us
can,
down.
I can show you the video.
I'm fine with you not.
Yeah, I'm fine.
You guys paid high
Anyway,
quality to make this.
I'm
Yeah.
really getting out in the weeds
Right,
now.
right.
This movie I'm gonna end up landing at a 6 with. Like it's not bad. It's above the curve, but there's so many things that were detracting from it, and it didn't satisfy my interest in the ways that I wanted it to, which is why I immediately watched the next one, and I will be watching the one after that, just because I want a little bit more than what I ended up getting. So yeah, that's where I am on it. And if we want to go into kind of scores that.
Oh yeah, what did
The-
critics and people think about this at the time?
The critics and whatnot. So IMDb has this as a 7.4 out of 10. If we
Rates it more favorably than most of us, except Mason.
yeah,
Mason's an IMDb
on,
dude,
on
though,
track with them.
I just think, people who watch this movie, they're gonna be like, "That was different."
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like different.
they're like, if they appreciate the breath of fresh air of different.
Well,
yeah.
and I think too, and I would recommend anybody that if you watch this movie and you like it, I suggest watching The Platform. Having seen The Platform before this, I think that is a much more interesting. And also, I mean, it's a visually... You could say it's not as colorful and, like, in some ways that visual, but, like, just, like, the quality of it, it's a much higher quality looking film.
Yeah.
And
It's
does
also
a very...
18 years later, too.
Yeah, and it is. But I think it does this kind of thing better.
No, I think they just watched the Japanese version, which I have to assume, Price, tell me I'm wrong on this, is that there's one part where that gate comes down. If they do a 1-for-1 remake, it doesn't kill the guy, it just is, it's a sexy woman and it just shreds her clothes. Tell me that doesn't happen in the Japanese version.
Well, they're also wearing white.
Just like anime.
Oh, well, you might want to see Hypercube because there is a floating sex scene that happens in that where they...
Actual nudity, though?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Alright, then I like Hypercube more. I'm on board.
Hangs
We're going
dong.
Hangs dong. I was about to say, if they hang dong, I'm watching
well,
that
so, okay, I'm not going to spoil it.
No spoilies. No spoilers.
But, well, anyway.
Okay.
Alright, so, Rotten Tomatoes.
Rotten Tomatoes.
Alright, so we
yeah.
audience score, 76%. And
Almost
then
80.
Critic score is 64%.
That makes sense.
Right there.
So we're right
Man,
on.
you're such a critic.
So you,
Such
wow,
a
see,
critic.
somebody is so favoriting these
Yeah.
critics. He's just looking at these critic scores and saying,
Yeah.
"That's
Yeah,
my
must be
score."
it.
Shilling for the critics. Let's get this wheel.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah, let's see what we got up next.
Nathan, you go ahead and spin it. My spins keep giving me favorites, so I need to.
I've gotten one movie pick, I think, this
you have your
entire
criteria?
season.
Yeah,
I know.
have-
Oh yeah, do you got all your? Because it's your pick this time. Either.
I've got one.
All right.
No, it is.
Comic gamble.
Comic book movie.
Spin that wheel.
That's it, though. I want to be Kingsman. Son of a bitch.
The Big Lebowski. Yeah. So
Another
Nathan
of mine.
another Nathan. So
this is how the cookie crumbles.
you know
though.
what?
But this one
season-
is a classic.
This one is a classic. This is actually a real classic. Let's get that trailer up. But you know what, Evan? I wonder what the rate is
God.
on us on the spinner spinning their categories.
Oh yeah.
I
there
know.
it
It
is.
seems like you always double
Yeah,
down.
I know.
do,
I've
you
been,
did.
I've been
You
crushing
did.
on my wheel with that.
Nathan's
spinner.
got the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Can I put it on the table? Can you actually see it?
We've got the real.
Kinda. You see his glasses.
You see the glasses, yeah.
It's been enough years where I'm looking forward to rewatching this again.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
it's been
I
a
just
while.
watched it last
I
year
watched this
for the
in
first
high
time.
school.
First time.
Yeah,
man.
just last year.
I'm looking forward to it. I'd like to see it because, like, I watched it at the same time as I did Pulp Fiction, and I didn't like either of them. And I watched Pulp Fiction like last year, and it's like probably one of my favorite Tarantino.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I was about to say that's one of those
That
ones
was
where
a stupid
if you
kid.
right, you,
I understood
you understood it in
but-
Inception
but
the
not
first
that.
time. You stupid fucking idiot. Yeah, let's see what this Big Lebowski. I actually don't know what the trailer is like though, so this will be interesting to see.
Wait, let me explain something to you. I am not Mr. Lebowski. I'm the dude. You know?
He identifies as the dude.
Mm-hmm. I just remember Steve Buscemi's in it.
Yeah.
El Duderino, if you're not into those things. I'm doing fine, Mr. Lebowski. Employed? This is your only idea. You got the wrong guy. I'm the dude. Lebowski. John Lebowski, the other Lebowski, the millionaire.
Just
Friends from no
need to
John
get
Goodman.
tallies of how many times Lebowski's.
Yeah,
if that was a
make
drinking, game,
yeah.
I'd be dead. Is that Philip Seymour Hoffman? Yeah.
Why should we sell for $20,000 when we can keep the entire million? Only mixed up in all this. Playing one side against the other in bed with everybody. Huh? Fabulous stuff. Who's sitting on $1 million? We want some money.
Oh,
The
those
fucking
German guys.
Yeah,
are
the
great.
German.
Hey, dude. Where is your car? Who's got your earnings wallet?
Damn, that.
It is
It's
a
a
Coen's
prequel?
brother. Yeah.
So, dude, where's my car?
Oh, I know.
Is this your homework, Larry?
Oh.
Yes.
Grants to keep them
The golf club.
This is what happens when
You
you
fuck a
fuck
stranger in the ass.
no choice. Tell these profits to do whatever is necessary to get their money.
Ferret.
We were nihilists, man.
Nihilist. That's what the group was
Yeah.
called. I couldn't remember. It was killing me. Goddamn nihilist.
I feel like Dylan, you gotta get high right before you watch this.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm sure it
probably will.
helps.
Yeah. Yeah. This is one of my favorite John Goodman performances.
Yeah.
Second to
That's my robe.
second to Cloverfield Lane.
Mm-hmm.
Did you say if you had watched this?
Well, I was like in high school.
Okay.
Yeah. He
So
watched it at an
everybody's-
age where he wouldn't have appreciated it.
Oh,
so this
totally.
we've all seen it, but yeah. I haven't watched it since like undergrad, so this has been.
I'm looking forward to it. Eagle Eye.
Eagle
movie's so
Eye.
good.
Dude, I was
No,
like,
it's not.
that's a movie that I was like, Mason loves this movie. I don't know why I know that about it, but
It's so good. I just keep getting phone calls. You gotta do this, just like The Matrix. The
yeah.
very beginning.
Mhm.
It's the same thing.
It felt like a worse version of what's that Will Smith movie where he's followed by the like an essay and everything like that?
Fresh Prince.
No.
It wasn't Hancock. Who was
No. Oh god, I'll figure it out off screen. But anyway, so that's our episode. We should Cube, our review of Cube rather. Make sure to let us know if you like our content or Cube or our scores. Apparently, we all lined up right around 6s. So maybe maybe me and Nathan or me and Mason got it, and they're just catching up to our score grades.
Ooh.
Oh.
Oh,
So I've got the furthest to go.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Uh-huh.
see.
If you like our content, then make sure to let us know with that big old thumbs up. You can dislike it, but we won't know about it. And even if we did get dislikes, we don't care. That we get.
I will know about it.
Will we?
But
I don't
nobody
check
else
it.
will know.
Oh, okay. So we'll know and nobody else will. So if you dislike it, you gotta let us know in the comments. That's how we get tracked.
You've got to leave a comment that says this is the dislike button, and then
Right.
everybody can thumbs up that.
Right, and then they
comment.
thumbs that to show that how many people dislike it.
Yeah.
But anyway, next week we're going to be covering The Big Lebowski, so make sure to tune in then. Hit the bell if you want to know when that video comes up, which should be almost every Friday. I don't know. I've lost track of our upload schedule. This is the F Movie Podcast. Thank you for tuning in, guys. We'll see you next week for The Big Lebowski.
Bye.
Later, dudes.
I'm not
Bye,
waving.
dude.
I'm not waving.
Oh.
Wave.
No, late.
Coward. How dare you sit where he stood?